Okay, if you want to watch the class later, I'm recording it, so we'll put it on the website for you. I will put it on the website for you. A couple of quick announcements to start class today. If you are interested in citizenship, there's another workshop happening on Friday, April 23rd on Zoom with Katie, one of the ESL teachers. She's going to be talking about US history, specifically the history for the citizenship test. This is an optional class. It's not required, but if you are interested now or at some time in the future getting citizenship, this is a good class to prepare for that. It will happen on Friday morning, April 23rd at 10 o'clock or 5 p.m. So if you are interested in coming to this class, let me know and I can connect you with Katie so that you can sign up for that class. All right. Okay. I can't really answer any questions, but if you have questions, let me know. Okay. And another reminder, probably tomorrow morning, I am going to send you an email that will include this picture here. And what I want you to do is click here where it says fill out form. This is a survey. We're really good at taking surveys in this class, but this survey is not for me. This survey is for my boss, my supervisor, to learn about our class. And it has some easy questions, like I don't even think it's anonymous. Your name will not be on the survey, but it asks questions about what you like and what you don't like, and things like that. So some easy questions about coming to English class. On this survey, you'll share about me as your teacher, so you can say some good things. If you have bad things to say, that's okay too, okay? If you want to say something bad, don't worry, because all of that can help us have a better English program, better English classes for session 6 and for the future. So this is the survey for the end of session 5, because Wednesday will be our final class for session 5. And next week, there is no English class. We'll take a break for 1 week, and then we'll continue with session 6, April 26th. There we go, April 26th. All right, so when you get this survey, when you get this email, please, please, please fill out the form, okay? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's do one more announcement. Hadass, because there's a baby in the room with you, I'm gonna mute you. But if you have any questions, unmute yourself, okay? All right. Last week, she's not here today, but last week, and who was it? Elizabeth asked the question, how can I use this word in a sentence? Remember on Wednesday, we talked about smishing, right? Do you remember that word? Smishing?
Yes,
It's a weird word. It was a new word for me even. And we were talking about, oh my gosh, what were we talking about on Wednesday?
about identity. Yes.
About
Identity theft.
There we go. Thank you. The idea just totally lost my brain.
budget.
We talked about identity theft, and we talked about shoulder surfing and dumpster diving and fishing, which is not to catch a fish, right? Or the fish in the ocean, but rather using an email to catch your special information. And I learned this new word called smish or smishing. And so I wanted to share some example sentences here with you. Now, these words are really, really small. And actually, Oh, I can't read them, so I'm not going to try. But here's a great opportunity when you find a new word and you want an example sentence, check the dictionary. The dictionary has so much good and useful information for you. So my favorite dictionary is dictionary.com. There is an app and a website. I think the app is really, really helpful. And you can see the word and the spelling. You can listen to the word here to listen to the pronunciation. It'll tell you the part of speech and give you some different definitions if there's more than one definition. And also gives you an example sentence here as well. So I just wanted to show you this and remind you and remind me that the dictionary is a great place to go for some example sentences. Okay, any questions about this dictionary?
No.
No.
Okay. Masa, I saw your question in the chat. To go back a slide here. Whoops, wrong direction. Session 6 will continue just like session 5. We'll take a break for 1 week like we did a week ago, and then we'll continue right back up again. Yep.
Thank you.
Same group. Nothing will change. We'll
Okay.
meet some new students as we have been. Hopefully not too many, because there will be a new teacher for session 6 who will take most of the new students. So we'll mostly be the same. And actually that new teacher, her name is Sarah. She will actually join us tonight in a few minutes. So you may get to see her or talk to her as we go through the class today. Okay, I need to take a breath. I'm already exhausted. Okay, let's go ahead and do our in-class survey. Oh, here comes Sarah. I'm gonna put the link for the survey in the chat for you. Hi, Sarah. And welcome. If I can find where I put the link, I guess I can just click it. Okay, technical difficulties as always. Nope, I copied the wrong link. Hold on a second. Okay, there we go. Now check the chat for that link. Okay, go ahead and click the link in the chat. It's going to take you to the in-class survey. Tell me about your attendance. Did everybody find the link in the chat? All right, thank you, Annalise and Ching and Rima. And Bala. Thank you, Huyam and Orly. Orly, what is the correct pronunciation for your name? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Yes, sorry. Sorry. Aurelie, so it's nice.
Orelli.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try to remember that. Every time I see your name, I think of 3 options and I always choose the wrong one. So
Yes.
Orelli, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And Anita, thank you. Okay, we should have a few more students completing that survey. Masa, I can send it to you by email. Yes, thank you. And Fiorella, thank you. Anita, thank you. Lauren, thank you. Lauren, I'll show you where to find the homework in just a minute. Or maybe at the end of class today, we'll chat about that. Sarah, thank you. Okay, I still need a few students to answer the survey, but I'm gonna trust that you're working on it and we're gonna go ahead and move on, all right? Okay. Okay, so in your conversation groups, you were talking about preparing food, right? Cooking. Who loves cooking?
Me.
Me.
Some of you? Okay, I don't know why I'm raising my hand because I do not like cooking. Very good. If you are doing the cooking for your family, hopefully this lesson will be useful or helpful for you. If you don't do the cooking for your family, hopefully it is interesting for you, and maybe you will especially appreciate the people in your family or in your house who do the cooking, because it's a lot of work to prepare so much food. Today we're going to talk a lot about verbs and verbs in the kitchen and verbs about cooking. So to get started, let's take a look at these 6 examples here. We have, let's see, can I have a volunteer to read these 6 words for me? Okay, I saw Annalise, I saw your hand first.
I said peel, steam, beat, grate, mix, and slice.
Very good. Let's have one more volunteer read. Masa, I saw your hand too.
Peel and steam and beat and grate and mix and slice.
Very good. Okay. Now, let's talk about a verb. What is a verb?
Is a word that describes an action.
It names the action. Yeah, it doesn't describe it, but it names the action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we have a verb, we have a sentence. If there is no verb, there is no sentence, right? In some situations, in many situations, when you're writing a journal or writing an email, you always put a subject with the verb to make a more complete sentence. You say, I peel the carrots, or Lauren grates the cheese, right? To make the full sentence. But in some situations, we can have the sentence without a subject, and we put the verb as the first word in the sentence. Think about stop, like a stop sign. That's a complete sentence because it's one word, it's a verb, and it's giving the command, or this word here, imperative. So in some situations, it's okay to start the sentence with the imperative. When the sentence starts with the verb, it means that the subject to the verb, the person who does the action of the verb, is you. You are the subject. So if I say stop, it means you stop. There are many situations where we might use the imperative form of the verb with you as the subject, but we don't have to say you. We just know it's you. If you have small children, you probably do this all the time. You say, stop, clean your room, eat your dinner, right? You're giving them the command or the imperative to do that verb. You don't always say their name at the beginning of the sentence every time. There's another situation where we see imperative verbs a lot, and that's in cooking, especially when we follow a recipe. When we follow a recipe, the recipe usually includes the imperative form of the verb. Here's an example recipe right here. And let's find the verbs for this recipe card. We have preheat, grease, wash, combine. There's a few more in there, I think. I just can't see them. There's add. They're so small. Right?
Bacon.
All of these sentences start with the verb, the imperative form of the verb. Okay, we're going to look at lots of other examples of some recipes today, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about how different ways we can use verbs in these sentences. Okay. Now, one more fun thing about verbs is we can change the ending of the word to change the verb into a noun. And we do this in this example by adding R or ER to the end of the verb to change it into a noun. Can I have a volunteer to read this box here? I saw Lauren's hand.
Okay. Add R or ear to the end of some verbs to change them to nouns. Peel, more air, I don't know what I
Equals.
say, equals, pillar,
Peeler.
use peeler. Use the peeler to peel the carrots.
Very good. So peel plus ER equals peeler. Now it's the thing. It's the thing that does the action of the verb. The peeler peels the carrots. Here's a few other example sentences here. We have the verb peel, and we're going to add ER to the end. Peel the carrots with the vegetable peeler. Okay, number 2, steam the vegetables in a
Steamer.
steamer. Very good. These are
I
pretty
have
quick and easy.
question, please.
Yes, Yum.
I have question. Yeah, when we can choose OR or ER, there is something rules from when you choose this.
Yep, there's a rule for that. Exactly. When do you add R and when do you add ER? Well, it
Yeah.
depends on the end of the verb. It depends on the end of the verb. So peel and steam, for example, they end in a consonant. So we will add ER to the end of the word. But look at the verb in number 4, great. Great. It ends with E. So we won't add ER, we will add R. Grater. We don't need the double E in this word. Grate the cheese with a cheese grater.
I have one question. Is when you use, for example, early, well, late, and you can later,
Mhm.
but this explain more, but this is different.
Yes.
Means.
Yep, this is
Oh,
a
okay.
different meaning. Yep, exactly. So we'll follow the same
Okay.
spelling rules as that, but this is a different way to change the ending. In this case, we're changing a verb into a noun. A verb into a noun.
That's only this rule, ERR, or is there something else, OR?
For this example, we're going to focus on adding R and ER to change the verb to a noun. There are so many other ways we can change the part of speech by changing the ending of the word.
Got it.
Yeah. But in these 6 examples, we're going to keep it super small and just focus on these 6. All right. Can I have a volunteer to read sentence number 3?
Bitter.
Beat
Oh,
the
sorry.
eggs with a beater.
Bitter.
All right. Number 5. Do you want to read the whole sentence? Sarah, I see your hand.
Mixer. Mix the ingredient with a mixer.
Very good. Mixer. And Masa, I think I saw your hand. Number 6.
Slice the ham with a knife or a slicer.
Slicer.
Okay.
There you go. Very good. Okay. You guys had some great questions about this slide here. Any other questions before we move on? Changing the ending of a word is a great way to grow your vocabulary very quickly. Yes, Masa.
Is always we have this opportunity to extract the noun from the another verb. Like always, we have this opportunity to do it. Or there is cases that there is no license.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm not going to say always, and I'm not going to say never, because I can't answer that question so specifically. There's lots of opportunities. A lot of times this R or ER ending changes the verb to a noun into the person or the thing that does the verb. So think about teacher. Teacher is a person who teaches. And examiner is a person who examines. I'm sure you all could give me dozens of examples in the chat about changing this
Walker.
ending. Walker. No. Basketball player.
Player, yes. Basketball player.
I mean,
Speaker.
speaker, that's a great one. Listener. Probably too many to name here. Okay, I think my internet is more stable now. Let's try moving on. Okay, let's take a quick look at this recipe card. I already showed you the verbs here before, but let's take a closer look and see what's included in this recipe. Now, if you enjoy cooking, you probably know how to look at a recipe. Even if you don't enjoy cooking, you probably have an idea of what a recipe is. Can somebody give me a definition for this word, recipe?
Introduction tell you how to cook.
Introduction or information that tells you how to cook. Yeah, great, Masa.
Is a prescription of something, like you give a plan of something to do.
Yeah, it
Something
is a
like that.
prescriptive plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. We say prescriptive because usually you see it before you begin, right?
Is like
Step-
steps
Okay, step that you follow.
when you are cooking, how to use the ingredient.
That's a great way to say it. How to use the ingredients.
Yeah.
Very good.
Describe a step one step. How do you must you cook?
Yeah, describes the steps for cooking. Very good. Yeah. Some recipes give lots of description, and some recipes do not give a lot of description. And you might have to practice or ask a friend for more information. When you look at a recipe, you might get a recipe on the phone and you're writing down what somebody is describing to you. You might get a recipe from the internet, from a favorite website that shares recipes, maybe even from a book. I have a few recipe books or cookbooks that I never open because I don't like to cook. But each recipe includes some really important information. Of course, we have the name of the food at the top of the page. You have to know, what are you cooking, right? Here's banana bread. Usually a recipe gives important information like the cook time, how much time to prep and how much time to cook. Prep is all of the small steps before you put it in the oven or put it on the stove, the time for cooking. Of course, the ingredients here, we have to know what we need. It's always a good idea to read the ingredients and check that you have everything. And then finally, the directions, all of the steps that you'll follow. Okay. We talked about how these steps are usually beginning with the verb to start the sentence, so you know what to do. Now, some recipes have more information and some have less. We're going to talk a little bit more today about some of those verbs and some of the verbs that you might find in a recipe. Okay, I'm going to give you a minute to look at the screen and read the story on the screen, and then I'll come in and I'll read it for you. Sarah Crawford, can I ask you to read the story for us?
Okay.
Sarah Crawford?
Yep, you, Sarah, not
Okay.
Sarah, the student.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Joel and Ming have been classmates since September. They decided to make a cake together at Ming's house for their class party. Joel wrote down a recipe. Ming put in the eggs, flour, and milk. She mixed all the ingredients well. Joel turned on the oven and put the cake in. They waited patiently. When they opened the oven and took out the cake, it looked great. They brought the cake to the party and everyone tasted it. Everyone figured out the mistake right away. The cake was missing an important ingredient.
Thank you. All right, all of the students, what ingredient did they forget?
Is it the sugar?
Sugar.
Sugar.
Sugar, yeah.
Vanilla,
Sugar. Thank you.
Vanilla.
banana.
Ah, banana.
Definitely sugar. Definitely sugar.
Baking powder.
There's
Or
Yeah, maybe they forgot some other important ingredients like baking powder, maybe bananas or cocoa powder. Vanilla would make it taste really good, but you can't have a
Sugar.
cake without sugar.
Looks major things is banana because it's banana cake.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of a banana colored cake, so it turned out the right color at least. Okay. All right. So in this story, we have lots of verbs, not the imperative because we're telling a story, not giving instructions. But there's some important verbs that I want your eyes to pay attention to today. Some of you may remember oh my gosh, so many weeks ago, we talked about phrasal verbs when we were talking about driving directions. Do some of you remember those phrasal verbs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of you new students did not listen to that class. So this will be all new information for you, but hang in there. I'll explain. Okay, phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are two-word verbs. The first word is a verb, and the second word is a short word, usually a preposition. And when we put those two words together, we have a phrase, a phrasal verb. And the second word, the short word, it gives us more information about the verb and it changes the definition of the phrasal verb or of the main verb. And phrasal verbs work just like other verbs, regular verbs that we use in English. We can change the tense to past or present or future or present perfect or progressive. And we can use modals with phrasal verbs. They're very, very common in English. And the tricky thing about phrasal verbs is when you add that second word and it totally changes the meaning, sometimes the meaning isn't always connected to the word itself or the original definition of that word. And there are hundreds of verbs in English, and there are thousands of phrasal verbs. And all of the phrasal verbs have many definitions. It's impossible to learn all of them in one class, okay? So we're gonna study today, we're gonna practice just a small number of them. And the goal is to learn these phrasal verbs and begin to notice them in your daily life by seeing them when you're reading or listening to them in conversation. You will not be an expert at phrasal verbs after today's class, but you'll learn how to recognize some of these phrasal verbs. All right. Now, some of you may have found the phrasal verbs in our story already, but if you think you know, keep that in your head. Don't tell me just yet. All right, let's look at some examples of phrasal verbs.
Like figured out.
Figured out
Mm.
is a phrasal verb. Yeah. Can I have
It's
a
like
volunteer? Is
Is it
that
the
Rima?
same as is it the same as idiom?
Phrasal verbs and idioms have many similarities. They're not exactly the same, but they're very similar because they have a different meaning from the words. Yeah. Rima, would you like to read these 3 sentences in the red box?
She put in the eggs. She put the eggs in. She put them in.
Very good, thank you. Can I have a volunteer to read the 3 sentences in this box?
They figure out the mistake. They figure out the mistake out. They figure out is out.
Very good. Okay. So here we have 2 examples of phrasal verbs. Put in and figure out.
Together.
Mhm. In these sentences, or these 2 sentences, the phrasal verb is together, those 2 words together. All right. In the next 2 sentences, we see how they're separated. We can separate those 2 words of the verb, and we put the object of the verb in between. She put the eggs in, and she put them in. Here we take the object, the eggs, and put it inside the verb. In this sentence, we take the object pronoun and put it inside the 2 words of the verb. Many phrasal verbs are separable. They can be separated, pushed apart by the other words in the sentence. Not every phrasal verb is separable. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But right now, I want to show you how some phrasal verbs we separate. This makes them more difficult to find in the sentence because there's extra information inside. Here are some other examples of separable phrasal verbs. Write down, turn on, turn off, take out, leave out, and pick up. In a normal sentence, we might have a subject, a verb, and an object. In a phrasal verb, we do something really silly. I'm going to try to draw on my screen, and I don't know if my drawing skills are so good. With a separable phrasal verb, what we do is we take the object and we put it like inside. Oh, bad drawing skills. We put it inside the verb, essentially. We separate those 2 words of the verb. Okay, so we take our subject, verb, and object. We take the object and we put it inside the verb. That's a really bad drawing. I think you get what I mean. Okay. Let's look at some example sentences. We're going to use the underlined part. That is the object of the verb. It receives the action of the verb. We're going to change the object into the pronoun, either it or them, and put it inside the 2 words of the phrasal verb. All right. Number 1 says, Mia wrote down the recipe. She wrote it down. Number 2, she picked up the ingredients at the store. She picked them
Pick them up.
up at the store. Number 3, she put in the flour.
She put it in.
In
And
it.
She
And
put
She
it.
put it in.
Mhm.
Very good. All right. Look at number 4, 5, and 6. Don't tell me, write it on your paper or keep it in your mind. And try number 4, 5, and 6 on your own.
She always.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Write it
Okay.
down. Okay. All right, I put the correct answers on the screen. Did you choose the best object pronoun and put it in the right place?
Yes.
Any questions about these sentences?
What example cannot separate?
We're going to talk about that after the break.
Yep.
Good question. We'll talk about inseparable phrasal verbs after the break. Any other questions?
Yeah, maybe there is a way to leave this answers when we doing some practice after a class. We can see this the answers.
Yes, if you finish the homework, there will be homework practice about phrasal verbs. What you can do is use your phone to take a picture of the homework if you write it on your own paper, and then send me the picture that you took. Either text or email me the picture and I'll check the answers for you.
No, I talking about this now. This we are study this now. So when sometime I like to open and do it some practice about what we talk today, and I'm open this slide, so I'm not found the answer. So sometimes I'm confused about the answer.
Yeah.
So how can there is another way to find this answer when we practice? Can you leave it in?
Yeah, so in the slides, if you open the slides later, there's no answers, right?
Yeah.
If you want to check again.
Yeah.
What you can do is find the recording from the class and you can watch the recording to listen to the answers and you'll see my screen here. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Okay. For all of the good things about technology, it doesn't do everything for us, right? Okay, let's go ahead and take a break. Let's take 5 minutes instead of 10, okay? Not a 10-minute break, but a 5-minute break. Come back at 7:14, okay? We have a lot to do when we get back from our break. Return at 7:14. Close your camera, turn off your mic. I'll be here though if you have any
Vanessa,
questions.
I have question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can send you the class server because I don't know my computers. I couldn't send you.
Okay.
Can I try to my email?
Yep, I can try to email it to you. Let me see if I can do that right now while we're on.
I filled out,
No.
but I can send you. I don't know. I tried.
Okay. Well, after class, I'll email you the link. Okay, right after class. I don't have my email open right now, so.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I tried to send you, but I couldn't. I don't know what happened.
That's okay. It's not the most important thing in the world.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Snow. How are you?
Yes, I good. Can I leave the class because I have the emergency in my family?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So another thing is the link is, can you send me to my email?
Yes, I'll send you the survey and the slides to your email.
Okay, see you Wednesday.
All right, see you Wednesday. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Okay,
Send me
normally
to my email,
Sarah.
Vanessa.
Oh, yes, yes.
Send me to my email.
I will send you. Can I send it after class?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Sarah, normally I don't have so many technical difficulties. I don't know why that survey was being so dumb today.
Oh, no, I think I'd like popped in right as you were clearing it up. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was the awkward time for you to come for sure, but I would have had the same issue whether or not you were watching me do it. I didn't have it. I thought I had it open and ready to go and I didn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hate that. And then you get all flustered and you're like, ah.
And like if I put the window over, that always throws me off. And then I try to minimize it and it's too small and I can't find what I need. And
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, it's the worst. But we'll see. If you want to hang out after class or tomorrow or a different day, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Totes, I'm probably gonna have to run right after class tonight, but I would love to debrief with you.
Yeah.
It's just been so long since I've been able to observe anybody, you know?
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just so weird doing it on Zoom.
Yeah, but still it's, you know, I mean, it's something. It's all, you know, I'm always like, oh, I'm gonna take this idea and that idea and learn from this, you know. There's still it's a opportunity for growth, even if it's on Zoom. Seriously though, I think the last time I observed someone was when I came and observed you. And Ashley.
When did you observe me?
I observed you and Ashley at Campbellsville.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a throwback.
Yeah, so we're talking about like 2015.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Why did you observe us there?
Because I had started my like TESOL endorsement at Murray State, and they that was one of the classes I had to do some observations. Yeah.
Well, I hope I've come a long way since then. Not that this is any comparison to that, but man.
Different world. Wow. Different world.
Yeah. In so many ways.
Also, your website is on point.
It's a little overwhelming.
No, it's amazing. And I'm kind of like, I was looking at it and I was like, why does she have to be so extra and do everything so wonderful? Like, I'm just like, how did you have the time to do that? It's amazing.
Well, you might notice some differences from day 1 to day 9 that we are on currently, because I figured out how to make it a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah.
It's a little intense. It's a little intense, and it's taken some introduction to kind of walk through how to use it. I don't know if I would do it again.
Okay.
I'm reflecting on that. I don't know. Because of the not the setup, like it's very simple to set up. Obviously you can't, it doesn't look very good. Like it's not, I don't know. In my mind, it would look prettier than it does, but the issue is teaching students how to use the website has taken a little bit more time. So let's chat more about that another time.
Definitely.
Okay. All right, everyone, if you can hear my voice, come on back to your computer or phone or tablet. I see some cameras turning on and some faces joining us again. We did lose a student or two, so hopefully they join us again. I'm gonna wait for the motorcycle to pass outside my house. It's pretty loud. Okay. So right before the break, I'm just gonna get started. If you're ready, let's get started again. Right before the break, we talked about separable phrasal verbs. These are the phrasal verbs, the 2-word verbs that we can separate and put some information between the 2 words of the verb. Before the break, we had a student ask, when do we separate? When do we not separate? And some examples of those the verbs that we don't separate. Okay, so phrasal verbs, there's so many of them. They have so many definitions. Some are separable. It means we can separate them. Some phrasal verbs are inseparable. You cannot separate them. How do you know? You have to check a dictionary to know. You have to learn for each phrasal verb, can I separate it or not? So in today's class, I just want you to know this exists. We have these types of verbs in English. It's not possible to totally memorize all of them in our class right now. So before the break, we looked at some examples here: put in, figure out, write down, take off, turn off, take out. Here are some examples of inseparable phrasal verbs. These words must stay together in the sentence. All right, let's see here. Ching, would you like to read these 4 sentences for us?
Sure, yeah, let's mute. I looked for a recipe. I look for it. Joy come over to my house. Joy come over there.
Very good. In these sentences, the second sentence uses the object pronoun to replace the noun from the verb before. The noun from the verb before, to replace the noun from the sentence before. It is the recipe, and there is my house. All right. Some phrasal verbs are inseparable. They cannot be separated. How do you know? You have to check a dictionary. A good dictionary will tell you, and we'll give you some examples, example sentences like we saw before. Here are some other examples of some inseparable phrasal verbs: get on, get off, come over, and look after. All right, let's practice with these example inseparable phrasal verbs. Okay, here we have get on. This man is getting on the bus. Here we have get off. This woman is getting off the train. Look after. The woman is looking after the baby. And get over. This person is getting over his cold or sickness. What is the meaning of get on?
Enter to the house.
Right?
Enter to the place.
It means to enter a bus or a train or an airplane, to get on. How about get off?
For
What
bus,
does
not
out,
for house or class or.
No.
we use get on in this picture for the bus? There are other situations where you might get on. Sometimes we say we get on the phone, we get on the computer for class.
Out or on a train, getting out the bus.
Normally we would say get off. You get off the bus or get off the train.
Go out.
Is the opposite of get on.
Get on and get off are opposites. Yeah. Now something like get out, it's a phrasal verb. It has a different definition than the examples we have on the screen here. Like I said, there are thousands of phrasal verbs. There are so many, and we don't have time to talk about all of them in our class today. All right, get on and get off are opposites.
I learned a word from my son. Text message is funny. It's called a take off.
To take off.
He's in the airplane. Saying, we will take off. I said, what take off? He said fly, ready to fly, actually.
Very good. Yeah, take off means ready to fly. That's another phrasal verb, an inseparable phrasal verb.
Ready to go.
Yeah, to take off means to leave. And usually we say to leave on an airplane. Yeah.
How about take on? What's meaning of take on?
To take on means to accept some responsibility is to take on. You might take on a new project in your job. For all of these phrasal verbs, there are so many definitions, and I can't sit here and define all of them for you tonight as much as we want to. So my recommendation is to check a dictionary. And if you do, you look in the dictionary and you look up there's another one, look up. If you search for the first word, that main verb, if you scroll down through all of the definitions, the phrasal verbs will be at the very end, and you can read all of the examples there. This afternoon, I looked up the definition for take off or take, I don't know, one of those. I looked it up. The main verb take had like 150 definitions for the one word. Now, many of those definitions are pretty similar in meaning, but once we get into the phrasal verbs, the definitions go so many different places. Okay, we can chat more about that another time, but let's take a look at these four here. Okay, to look after, as here, this woman is watching the baby, right? She's looking after the baby, to take care of or keep out of trouble. And to get over means to recover from a sickness, to feel better after being sick. Okay, take a minute to go ahead and read these 4 sentences here and choose the best word to finish the sentence. Don't tell me the answer yet. Just hold it in your head.
What's the meaning of get over?
To get over means to recover from sickness or to get better, feel better after being sick.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can I have a new volunteer, somebody who hasn't spoken much today, a new volunteer to read number 1? Huyam.
When you plank the bus, give the money, give the money, yeah?
Yeah.
To the driver. When you get on.
Get on the bus. Very good. Bala, I saw your hand for number 2.
Yeah, for number 2, I look after my baby brother from 5 every day. 4 and 5 every day.
Very good. Look after. When we see the time written like this, sometimes we say from 4 to 5. From 4 to 5.
Okay, from 4
Sometimes
to
we
5.
say the full time from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock.
Okay. Okay.
Somebody has a TV on behind them. Thank you. Number 3, can I have a new volunteer for number 3?
Okay.
Angela.
When the doors open, stand up, and the train, it's get off.
Get off. Very good. Thank you, Angela. And Lauren for number 4.
When did Ali get over his cold?
Over.
Very good. Get over. Okay. Any questions about these phrasal verbs? Okay. So let's go back to our original story about Ming and, oops, wrong direction. Ming and Joel and their disaster of a cake. Let's read the story again and see if we can find the phrasal verbs, the separable and the inseparable phrasal verbs. All right, let's see. Question? Okay. Joel and Ming have been classmates since September. They decided to make a cake together at Ming's house for their class party. Joel wrote down a recipe.
Wrote down?
Wrote down. Ming put in the eggs, flour, and milk. She mixed the ingredients well. Joel turned on the oven and put the cake in. They waited patiently. When they opened the oven and took out the cake, it looked great. They brought the cake to the party and everyone tasted it. Everyone figured out the mistake right away. The cake was missing an important ingredient.
Figured out.
As decided to is not.
Decided to is not a phrasal verb. It's one reason why these are so tricky, because sometimes they are hard to identify. In this case, decided is the main verb of the sentence, and to make is an infinitive, acting as the object of that verb. Okay. When we use phrasal verbs, we make more interesting sentences and we have more interesting conversations. There are so many phrasal verbs. So today I just want you to have a few new ones you can learn and use and try to begin to recognize them in the real world. You might make some mistakes and that's okay, but start to notice them. Okay. Let's take another look at some of these recipes and see if we can identify some phrasal verbs in the recipes. I know some of your screens are kind of small, and so do your best to watch along with us. I'm going to make my screen bigger for me so I can see myself. Okay.
Set
So this
aside.
is
Set aside.
Set aside.
set aside. Yep, that would be a phrasal verb. To set aside means to put something on the side or put something next to you.
Pour into.
Mash the banana in.
So to mash in a mixing bowl, this is not a phrasal verb because it's telling us where to put in the mixing bowl.
Pour into.
To pour into. In this sentence, oh, to pour into pan.
Didn't looks like.
I don't think so. It's not that it is never a phrasal verb, but I think in this case it's not, because again, it's telling us where to put it into, excuse me, into the pan. So I think no.
Come out. Come out.
Came out.
Comes
Come
out.
out.
Comes out.
Oops. Yeah, I think comes out would be another example
Comes
of
out.
what happened to my little drawing tool. There we go. To come out. To come out is when something leaves or exits. Okay, let's look at another one. The cucumber salad. There are no phrasal verbs in this recipe. We have cut, add,
Mix.
mix, and serve,
Or chill.
and chill. So these verbs are just that command, that imperative. Do this. Okay, here's another one.
Roll out.
Roll out.
Mix. Roll out.
Cut in.
Cut in.
I don't think cut in is a phrasal verb. This is just a verb followed by a preposition in the shape of something.
What do you mean roll out, Vanessa?
Like
To roll out means to make something flat.
Oh,
So
okay.
in this case, we have a big lump,
Mhm.
a big ball of dough, and we want to make it flat by
It's
rolling.
flat. Oh, okay.
frost.
Frost is another verb. Thank you. Frost on its own is not a good sentence, but because it's a verb, it makes a sentence. To add sugar and cream to the top of it. Okay, last one.
Add is a verb.
Add, bring,
Simmer.
About
oh, simmer,
Steer. Steer.
stir, very good.
Serve.
milk.
Serve is a
Serve.
good one. Okay. I think that's all the verbs here.
Cat.
Where's cut?
The
Cut into.
There we go. Cut into chunks. Gives us a little bit more definition or more explanation about what the pumpkin should look like. It says here, cut meat, cut up into chunks. Okay, so when you're following a recipe, there's a couple of things to be very careful about. You always want to read the ingredients to find out how much of what you need to include, and then read those directions and identify those verbs. You might find some phrasal verbs that might change the definition or change the meaning as well. I forgot, here's one more. I forgot I added this. Mix.
Mixed, yeah.
Add.
Add. That's all.
Rory came over because this is my favorite recipe. He wanted to know what was
Yeah.
happening.
Peer into.
Pour. And then
Yeah.
bake.
Bake.
This recipe is my family recipe. It's one of the only recipes I make because I don't enjoy cooking. And this is for a derby pie. This is a special food.
It tastes.
Oh, Rima, do you remember when I made it for the class?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, this is a special food that we eat in Kentucky, usually around this time of year before the Kentucky Derby. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
You go back.
Yes. It's a very easy recipe to follow and easy to make. It's very difficult to make a mistake with this recipe, in my experience. Okay. We're jumping all over the place tonight, but let's do a super quick pronunciation class, pronunciation lesson. I don't know how to introduce this, but let's just talk about listening and how when you read the words in a book and when you listen to a native speaker, there's sometimes some difference between the words on the paper and the words coming from the native speaker. And this is because of some pronunciation rules and some pronunciation habits or tendencies that many people many people do. I think we talked about this in a class once before. We looked at some pronunciation examples. But we're going to look at a few tonight. We're going to listen to a few examples tonight about how the words of the phrasal verb sometimes push together. They blend or link together. It doesn't sound like two words. It sounds like one word, which makes listening for these sometimes even more difficult. So listen to this first sentence here. I'll read for you. I can't figure out something on the menu. I can't figure out something on the menu. This phrasal verb is figure out. But a native speaker will say, figure out, figure out, you're out. Figure out.
Figure out.
In the second sentence here, please turn on the oven. Turn on. Turn on. Turn on.
Figure out. Turn on.
Is verb.
It's our phrasal verb, yeah. But we don't hear the two words of the phrasal verb. Sometimes we just hear the one word. Or sometimes we hear two different words, like turn on, turn on, turn on.
Turn on.
All right, we're going to do a little bit of listening. I'm going to play some short conversations for you. As you're listening, listen for the phrasal verb and write down the phrasal verb that you hear. You might not hear the separate words, the distinct words. You might hear a blend of sounds together.
Unit 6. What's cooking? Page 82. Lesson 4.
Can you hear okay?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep listening.
Day conversation. Exercise 3A. Listen to the linking of the phrasal verbs in these sentences. 1.
I can't figure out something on the menu.
2. Please turn on the oven.
Okay, those were the two that I already read you. Let's see here.
Unit 6. What's cooking? Page 82. Lesson 4. Everyday conversation. Exercise 3B.
There we go.
Listen to the conversations. Complete the phrasal verbs you hear. 1. Can you help me look for my keys?
I'll
1. Can you help me look for my keys?
help you look for them in a minute.
What phrasal verb did you hear?
Look for.
Verb.
Look for. No, that's the wrong word.
For.
The right word is for, to look for.
To look for.
But he said, look for, look for, look for.
Look. Look for. Look for.
2.
Don't forget to turn off the oven.
I'll turn off the oven as soon as the chicken is done.
Turn off.
Turn off.
Turn off.
Turn off. Very good. Turn off.
3. Where do you get off the train?
We get off at Grant Street Station.
Get off.
Get off.
Get off.
Get off. Get off.
4.
Did you turn on the oven before you put the cake in?
Turn on. Turn on.
Turn on.
Turn on.
Did. I always remember to turn on the oven. 5. I went over to Jimmy's house yesterday afternoon.
You always go over to Jimmy's house before you go over to Larry's house.
Difficult.
Did you get
Came over.
over?
Came
Go
over.
Go
Go-
over?
Go over.
There's a typo in the book. The book says the verb came, but we did not hear
Yeah.
the verb came in the story.
Oh.
Let's listen to that one again.
Go over.
You always go over to Jimmy's house before you go over to Larry's house.
Go
Go
over.
over.
All right.
6.
I couldn't get on that elevator because it was too crowded.
That's okay. We'll get on the next one.
Get on. Get on.
Get on.
Get on.
Get on.
There we go. Okay. So practicing listening to these phrasal verbs can be a little tricky because the words blend together, the syllables blend together, and we don't hear the individual words of the phrasal verb.
Mhm.
Do you want to listen again to these sentences?
Okay.
Okay, let's listen again. Takes about 1 minute and we won't stop in between.
Okay.
Conversation. Exercise 3B. Listen to the conversations. Complete the phrasal verbs you hear. 1. Can you help me look for my keys?
I'll help you look for them in a minute.
2.
Don't forget to turn off the oven.
I'll turn off the oven as soon as the chicken is done. 3. Where do you get off the train?
We get off at Grant Street Station.
4.
Did you turn on the oven before you put the cake in?
Yes, I did. I always remember to turn on the oven.
Okay.
5. I went over to Jimmy's house yesterday afternoon.
You always go over to Jimmy's house before you go over to Larry's house.
6.
I couldn't get on that elevator because it was too crowded.
That's okay. We'll get on the next one.
Okay. Oh. This afternoon, Rory went to the doctor. He went to the vet.
Yeah.
And he got a good checkup. But unfortunately, the timing, I made the appointment right in time for his dinner. And he was not happy to miss his dinner, to have to go to the vet. So his schedule is a little bit off today. He's a little confused. He thinks it's time to eat again because he had dinner at a weird time. So hopefully he will be quiet for a few more minutes while we finish up our class today. All right. So we talked about a lot of different things today. We stayed in the subject of food and recipes and directions in the kitchen. And on Wednesday, we're going to talk a little bit more about in the kitchen and vocabulary related to food. But today we talked about imperative verbs. That is the verb that starts the sentence. There is no subject to the in the sentence. Here are 6 verbs that we use in the kitchen that we can use as the beginning of the sentence. We changed those verbs into nouns by changing the ending. We looked at some recipe cards and identified the parts of the recipe and the verbs in the directions. We read a story about phrasal verbs and we identified separable phrasal verbs and inseparable phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are separable or inseparable. A dictionary can help you learn which phrasal verb is separable or not separable. When the phrasal verb is separable, we can put the object inside the words of the verb. Or we can use the pronoun for the object inside the words of the verb. We talked about inseparable phrasal verbs that must stay together. And then we listened to the pronunciation of some phrasal verbs. Okay, we got 10 minutes left in class. Should we do a really quick government lesson? Can I get some thumbs up? Or no thumbs up? Okay, I see some thumbs up. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you. Okay. All right. So every Monday for the last few weeks, we've been talking about a topic related to US government. These questions, or all of these questions, are on that citizenship exam. I like to connect each of these topics to our life today so that we know why is it important to today in 2021. In the past classes, we talked about the Declaration of Independence, the US Constitution, the Federalist Papers, and the Bill of Rights. So we can see here a little bit of the timeline: 1776, 1787, 1788, 1791. These times are all around the very beginning of the United States, the founding of the United States. And these documents are very important to that time. We live in the United States, so it's important to know about the history of the place that we live and how these things are connected to our life in 2021. Because they still impact, they still affect our life today. So we're going to jump in time a little bit, and we're going to talk more about the amendments to the Constitution. So the Constitution gives us information about the government of the United States. And the founders of the United States, these guys right here, these old white guys, and these old white guys here, they talked for years and years. They talked about what should the US government be? And finally, they wrote the Constitution and they said, we're finished. We're done. It's perfect. Nope. They said, wait a minute. We forgot some things. We need to make some changes to the Constitution. And so that's what they did. What does the word amendment mean?
Change.
Change. Adjust.
Adjustment.
A change. A change. Yeah. Yeah. An amendment is a change. These motorcycles are really loud. Sorry about that. The first 10 changes came shortly after the Constitution was written. And they came all at one time. They wrote them together, they signed them, they voted, all good right away. We called the first 10 amendments the Bill of Rights. We talked about those a few weeks ago. But since that time, there are 17 more amendments. So we're going to talk about some of those changes that happened to the Constitution since 1791. There's a total of 27 amendments. So today we're going to talk about 17 of those. I'll share a link here where you can find a list of all 27, and you can see exactly what each amendment did. But what's important to know is that they do some really important things. Some things that we think of about the United States are the amendments. We just don't think about it as the amendments. So as the years passed, the world changed, the United States changed, the people changed. They had new ideas and better ideas. They wanted to change the Constitution to show their new ideas. So they had to pass amendments to the Constitution. Some of these important amendments are related to voting rights. They gave rights for women to vote. They gave rights for Black people to vote, or former slaves to vote. They gave the right for, or they changed the age limit for people to vote. That's the 26th, I think, changed from 21 to 18. That's the Constitution that says all people, doesn't matter your skin color, if you are a citizen, you can, and over 18, you can vote. The 13th Amendment ended slavery in the United States. We don't have time to talk about slavery in the United States, but the 13th Amendment says no more. There was an amendment to the Constitution that banned the sale of alcohol in the United States. What does the word ban mean?
Allowed.
Not allow.
About, okay, avoid, huh? Avoid.
Like avoid. It means to prohibit. It means it is not allowed. Not allowed is to ban.
Mm-hmm.
The 18th Amendment said you cannot buy or sell alcohol in the United States. And then a few years later, they said, you can. They repealed the ban. They said, you can buy and sell alcohol in the United States. That's the 21st Amendment. The Constitution gives us a lot of information about how the government works, but we needed some more information about the president's job. So there are 4 amendments that talk about the job of the president and what can happen to him. It gives a term limit. You can only be president for 2 terms. You can't be president for your whole life in the United States. I don't remember what the other ones are, but some information about being president in the US. So some really important things that we think about the United States are actually some of those amendments to the Constitution. What's important to know, yes.
What define?
Define means to give the definition. Define. So it gave us more information about the president's job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It actually, the 25th Amendment tells us what happens if the president gets sick or goes into surgery or has another health problem. What happens to the president then? We know in the Constitution. Okay, so we know from the Bill of Rights that the Constitution can change. We can amend the Constitution, but it's very difficult to do that. And many people think, well, I don't agree, or I disagree, or I think this is the best law for the United States. But it's a very difficult process to make that the real law for the United States. And the Constitution tells us how to make those changes when we need to make changes. Okay. So I don't expect you to memorize all 27. That's crazy. I don't know all 27, but it's good to know what is the Constitution, what is an amendment, and why do we need to change the Constitution? Because we change and we learn new information as the world changes. Okay. Any questions about the Constitution or amendments or phrasal verbs or Rory or anything? Because it's 8 o'clock. How old is he?
Yes.
He is 2 years old.
Baby.
He is just a baby. The vet said,
Yeah.
is he getting slow? I said, not really. She thought maybe because he's getting older, his behavior, his activity level would go down. Not yet.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Okay. We'll be back. Yes.
Can you send us to the more question, because it's more, we need to more practice, you know?
Yes, absolutely. So I will send you again if you need me to send again the link for the homework.
Okay.
Everything is listed on, I don't have it available right now, but everything is on the class website.
Okay.
There's some homework for you to practice with phrasal verbs and some kitchen vocabulary.
Okay.
And there's some homework for, oh, there's an online quiz you can take about in the kitchen. And I have a Bill of Rights quiz you can take about the Bill of Rights and those 10 amendments.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need more practice.
Yeah, I'll send you the link for all of the homework so that you have it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Will you send the homework for email or for where?
For our email.
Yeah, let me show you where you can find the homework.
Yes, please.
I can find in the link in the computer. Can you send me to my email? It's better for me.
Okay, I'll send you the link again. The link will be for this class website that you see right here. This should look familiar to some of you. Here's class 9 right here. When you click on class 9, here's the homework for you.
Okay.
The journal, some practice with the phrasal verbs, some writing to write your own recipes, and then a quiz you can take on the computer about cooking. You scroll down here, here's the link you can click, and it will open the worksheets. Loading, loading, loading.
Can you show me again the steps?
Yes, so you will have, where is it? It's hidden from me. Okay, the class website.
Google. Okay.
I'll send you the link again, so you'll have it. Okay. Here you can click here to watch the video if you want to watch the class again.
Oh, okay.
Here's the slides where you can see all of the slides from class today. And then move down, 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 down. Click here for the grammar homework about phrasal verbs, and it will open in a new window. So you can take this worksheet. You can write your answers on a piece of paper and take a picture. If you want to print, if you have a printer, you can. It's not required. You can just write your answers on a piece of paper and send to me, and I'll check for you.
Okay.
Here's the grammar homework here.
Okay.
Click on this one. Here's another paper you can print, or you can just write on your own paper the recipes that you might want to share. The directions can be really difficult to write out because you think you know what the directions are, but imagine somebody else reading and they have to follow your directions. Maybe they'll make some mistakes, or maybe they don't understand what you want them to do.
Can you give us one example?
An example of a recipe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can make an example and share the example. I'll change this so there's one will be the example. Okay, I'll send that over to you all right now so you have the link to the website with all the homework and the survey. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
All
see
right,
you.
thank you
Wednesday.
guys.
Thank
See
you
you
so
on
much.
Wednesday.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good
Good night.
night.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.